Good afternoon and welcome to the second episode of Season 2 of Powered by You, a podcast produced by RBKC in collaboration with Morley Radio. My name is Zino and I'm your host. In this episode, we'll be talking about the female involvement in serious youth violence, and within the conversation, we'll touch on the concept of honey trapping and other related issues. Hopefully, this will help us identify some key motivators behind why females are involved in serious youth violence and other related issues like gangs and stuff like that. Today I'm joined with Simon Mayo from RBKC's Community Safety Team.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, pleasure.
And I'm also joined with Emma Murphy, who's a young women's worker.
Hi, thanks for having me as well.
Thank you both for coming. How's the week going so far?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I feel quite fresh because I've just been away on holiday, so which is always needed.
Where did you go?
To the States, Boston, Massachusetts.
How long you stay? Was it a lengthy trip?
2 weeks. So catching up with family out there, and just getting away from London and work, refreshing.
Okay, is it like a normal thing for you to go out there?
It's the first time I've been in a while. So, but yeah, it was amazing.
But
so,
pre-COVID, obviously,
since
there was implications with travelling there.
Yeah.
Has much changed, you reckon, since you last been?
Yeah, I think it's got back to normal, which is really nice, and settled. I think there's a lot going on in America at the moment, politics and stuff, which is fascinating. But it's lovely. So, and it's nice to be back at work, which has been
really
great. Yeah.
It feels back to normality.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't miss going back on holiday.
No, I'm really privileged, and Emma probably the same. To working with young people is I think it's a great job to have. So really inspiring. And I think in my role, so I get to work with 11 to 25-year-olds who are potentially involved in serious youth violence or being exploited or have trauma-based issues from their past. And it's about giving them the opportunity and the space and believing in them. So,
sounds complex but interesting at the same time. So I'm sure, you do have different weeks, but it's very much fast-paced and you're on edge. Yeah, that's interesting. What about yourself, Emma? How was your week?
It's been busy. I haven't been on holiday like Simon. I haven't been away since 2019, but I've booked to go to Portugal next year, so something to look forward to.
Whereabouts are you going?
I'm going Albufeira.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
I think I've been.
Yeah.
Is that near Lagos? There's a place in Portugal.
Yeah.
Because there's when I say Lagos, people think Nigeria.
Well, my boyfriend's Nigerian, and I was like to him, if we go Lagos, your mum's going to be thinking, they're going to Nigeria when we're just hopping on a plane to Portugal.
Yeah, I think that's 2 hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Hopefully you enjoy it. It's been a while since a lot of us have enjoyed an actual well-deserved holiday.
Definitely.
What about your work? So what is it that you do?
So mine is a bit similar to Simon. So I work with 10 to 25-year-olds. So I just work with females. I'm part of Westminster Council's Integrated Gang and Exploitation Unit, which we also refer to as IGXU. And we work in the unit with males and females, but as I say, I'm just the female worker. So we do one-to-one support and mentoring around things like county lines. So for those that don't know what county lines is, street terms is like OT, cunch, going country. And we also work with young people who are being exploited, involved in serious youth violence. I do a lot of work around sexual violence as well and sexual health, and also domestic abuse and healthy relationships with the young women I support.
That's a lot of things.
Yeah. And what makes
All
it
by
even
yourself.
more complicated is once a young person hits the age of 18, there's a lot of services that pull away. So getting that support when young people are still in need for it can be quite challenging at times.
That's actually interesting. I'd like to find out how you deal with that. So obviously you have a duty of care as well. Also, you're a human being. So you, even though the rule book says you can't work with this person, what is it do you do? Do you just pull out, or do you actually? Because there's only so much signposting can do.
Yeah. Definitely.
So that's an interesting thing to find out. And also, when you said Westminster, there is also for us right now, we know the barriers and how the boundaries work. But as a young person, you can just cross the road in RBKC.
Yeah.
And they don't really care. Oh, this is Westminster. This is RBKC. It's literally one road separating the two boroughs. So it's interesting how us, from a professional environment, look at things compared to young adults.
Yeah.
So I think that's That's an interesting. Yeah.
And then so on that, I work in Kensington, Chelsea, and community safety. But we do a lot of joint work, Emma and I, and both teams. And that's just acknowledging that young people travel right across London, right across England.
And we do cross-border stuff with other local authorities as well, so Hammersmith and Fulham, but also like Brent and Camden and even further away.
So it's a lot of linked work.
Yeah. So at the minute, I'm working a lot with professionals from Slough and Reading, because it all links into a case of my young person. So, yeah.
Okay. So, but the community safety, sometimes it can be by borough. Yeah. But not all the time.
Yeah, it really varies. I think traditionally there's an idea when it comes to CSU violence or gangs that it's postcode, so it's in a particular area, whereas I think that has shifted. So now you have, people that will link up through colleges, through different peer groups, social media, and then so it's cross.
Right, that's interesting. So obviously I'd like to ask, what do you think some of the preconceptions are in relation to young females and their involvement in serious youth violence?
It's really interesting, and Emma and I were chatting about this earlier, that actually there's a very small percentage of young women that would be working with our services, and I think that's something that we're trying to address and change and understand. And I think, so if you look at the serious youth violence, so we have a monthly panel, and there's, say, 60 young men on there. You may have 1 or 2 young women, and similarly with youth offending, you may have 1 or 2 young women out of a whole cohort of young men. And I think one of the things that we were really fascinated about is actually often young women aren't seen when it comes to criminality or violence, or are traditionally only seen in the context of sexual exploitation and not criminal exploitation. And there is, we're realising that society is much more complex. Young women are much more diverse than that small way of looking at it. And I think authorities and communities are starting to understand things differently. Yeah,
because I was saying to Simon, we've had some young females that have been asked to be lookout for robberies and thefts. Yeah. And if you think of walking down a street, if you see a young female standing there on a phone, you're just going to walk past her and not think anything, especially if police drive past. But if you have a young male standing there on a phone, he might be looked at as, oh, he looks a bit dodgy, or what's he up to? And police might stop and search him. And it's the same when it comes to stop and search. So a lot of girls have said to me, I will be hanging around with a group of males, police will come, stop and search them, but I'll be given things to hold because I'm not being stopped and searched. It's, the gangs know this, so it's about us as like community safety, as professionals linking up and realising this so we can change our intervention in the way we work and understand things.
Okay, that's interesting. So those are some of the preconceptions. Yeah. I wonder if there's any more.
There is one that, like, females aren't violent. Yeah. And they're really caring and nurturing. So we've had females that have exploited groups of young males, both sexually and criminally.
Right. But it's not... So that's not violence, but it's manipulation, would you say?
Yeah, it's manipulation, but she can be quite violent.
Yeah.
Well, some of them can be.
It's always made me think, like, what's their capacity for violence? And sometimes could it be matched with their male counterparts, for example?
I know, like, a lot of the young females I'm working with will fight because they don't want to be seen as weak, and because they want that respect. They're fighting for the respect. They're fighting to be seen, which, can be really dangerous and can get them, even in more complicated situations. For example, I've had females that have been asked by males to just travel in a car to the other end of the country with them because it'll look more normal if there's a female. And when a female's got to a place, she's had a phone and a bag taken off her and being told, you're going to work here in a trap house. So she said no. And a man is just literally, like, she started trying to fight him and a man's just knocked her clean out cold, took a phone and said, make your own way back to London. So she thought she was in that control of that situation. But with the, obviously, the difference in physicality between males and females and strength.
It differs sometimes. It's crazy hearing this kind of things that are happening whilst we just think to ourselves, everything just sunshine, and just it's I don't know if I should be shocked or should be expecting to hear this, you know. But what do you think, Simon? Like,
it's interesting, especially with social media changing the whole landscape now. So we've got recently in our borough and other boroughs, we've had young women that have attacked other young women, and then filmed it and put it up on social media and using social media and that filming as a humiliation and power sort of tool, which takes it to a very different level, but very violent situations as well. So, which will often shock professionals and community and families.
Yeah. That's. Would you say this kind of behaviour has always been in existence, but we just haven't been exposed to it from a working point of view?
Yeah, I know Simon was giving me some facts before about Cleopatra and different things. I don't know if you want to explain that.
It's a bit of this idea that women are meek and submissive, and so if you actually go back historically, you've got I don't know if people watch Vikings on sort of mainstream media. You've got the shield women, who were considered real warrioresses and a real powerful part of the army, and you know, and similarly women have often been involved in military and services, but it's just not spoken about or something that's seen as you know. And in films, it's often men that, you know, so you've got action heroes, which are often around men. It's shifting now in sort of all the mainstream Marvels and all the other shows where they're bringing in, actually showing that women are, you know, as powerful and present and influential in a sense. So even Brave, which I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I don't.
It's about a young Scottish girl who's, as formidable as the men as well when it comes to prowess and physical achievement and, you know, being able to look after herself. So the narrative around young women and men is changing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So in terms of women getting involved into youth violence or serious youth violence, and they're getting into fights, they're filming it amongst each other, that is, right? It should be, I don't know, maybe if it was done away from social media, I don't think it would escalate, but because social media is involved, for example, let's say a fight was to happen and whoever saw it there and then, that's it. Yeah. But now, once you bring out your camera, you put it on TikTok or whatever social media platform you choose to put it on, you're exposing it to endless amount of people to see it, and then that ends up basically making you want to get revenge, or you getting embarrassed in front of your peers. So I think it gets really sticky once you start to add in the element of technology into the picture. And
it's a footprint that will never go away. So
people start to save it, and
you know, as you grow older and have your own children, that is still there on the internet, and is relived. So from a trauma point of view, if you experience levels of violence and criminality, actually it can have a real deep impact on you emotionally. And then if that's then shared with everyone, it's massive.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I think back to when I was in high school, and I was so fortunate because there wasn't social media. I mean, I was delivering group work yesterday, and the person I was delivering with, she started talking about the mobile phones with the big aerial and putting a card in. I'm not that old, and she's only a couple of years older than me. But, you know, back when I was in high school, if someone was being bullied, it'd probably be in high school, and at home was your safe space. But now, because of social media, that follows you everywhere. It's 24/7. It's especially if like a fight's recorded, you know, and then that's passed to one person, then another, and then in a different school, and then young people might move schools, but that video's still there, so they can't get away, as Simon said, from that trauma.
Yeah, that's really nasty to go through that. But just, I might be diverting, but you said high school. Yeah. Is that college or secondary?
Secondary.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes I'm thinking high school. I know the term is used, you know, maybe when you watch movies, like US movies, and they say, high school.
It's used in Liverpool.
Really?
There we go.
Okay. I learned something new today. But I'm interested to find out, to see, you know, what drives females to fight against each other. I'm sure there's many reasons, but what is a common factor that ends up in that situation?
Males, the dating. That's one thing
I didn't want to assume that. I did not want to assume that, but I was hoping, not hoping, that's the wrong term to use. I was thinking that it'd be more other reasons than just fighting over a guy.
There are other reasons, but the main one I see is when someone is either dating someone or in a casual relationship or in an exclusive long-term relationship, and then the boy might go and start talking to another female or might cheat. The girls will then, I find anyway, go against each other. And I'm like to them, take a step back and look. Who are you in a relationship? The person you're fighting with or the one that's cheated on you? So why are you fighting this other girl when she mightn't have known about you and your relationship? It's your boyfriend or the person you see and that has cheated. So just trying to see it that way rather than this girl's disrespected me, when it's like, no, it's the boy who's disrespected you by going with someone else.
Yeah, I think the concept of cheating happens whether you're in gang violence or not. It's something that happens in society. So that's what I was thinking. Where does the criminal activity kick in relation to that, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's complicated because obviously it's case by case. Sometimes it can be because of a boy, sometimes it can be because, you know, they've got to, as I said before, fight for the place in society.
Yeah, because sometimes I'm trying to imagine, for example, let's just say a female finds out she's getting cheated on, and she is used to a lifestyle of luxury and, you know, getting pampered through maybe criminal activity. And she doesn't want to lose that. Maybe because let's just say you were dating someone who just worked a normal job. You could just end it there, move on and pursue yourself or seek another relationship. But if you're used to a high standard that is being sponsored through different activities, you might think to yourself, I can't lose this. So that might drive you to fight for what you have currently. So that's my thought. I don't know if that is true or not.
That is one. And funny enough, I was talking about that in some group work with young females yesterday, that, you know, it's nice being treated to nice things. It's nice going to fancy restaurants, but when that impacts your safety as well. So what we've been trying to teach young females is that you might be living this life of luxury, but that can all be taken away from you if your partner ends up going to prison and police come and do like confiscation orders. Or like, you know, if you get followed by a rival gang, because I've had girls in the past that have been walking down the road, a rival gang member has spotted that they're in a relationship with someone else and has sliced the girl down her face. She didn't see herself as part of a gang because she was just dating someone. Sometimes people know that people are part of gangs, sometimes they don't, and not everyone in a gang is a bad person either. But sometimes females don't always realise that the risks that they can be putting themselves in.
And I think if you're a person who's materialistic, that's it, you're enslaved to worldly things.
But that leads back to social media and stuff now as well, that, you know.
So you might turn a blind eye to someone doing dodgy stuff and like, you know what, I really like this Gucci bag. Or I really like this.
The Balenciagas.
So let me just not address this. Even though I know it's bad, or you got that feeling that, oh, this isn't right. But I think because you're so into material things, you lose yourself. And
and part of it, I think, is often being part of a group that has power. So whether it's named as a gang or a dominant group in a school setting, it's about how do you find your place in society and how do you feel accepted, and what we don't teach people is how to be assertive. So you're watching people that are using force and power, which then gets into violence, as a way of getting what you want, whether it's materialistic things or a sense of place, and you don't know any other way of getting it without using that sort of force or power. And then and part of that belief system that you buy into then legitimizes and says it's okay to be violent, because this is how London is now, or this is how young people interact.
They normalise it.
We watch it on, you know, social media, drill music, on games, and so therefore you convince yourself that actually it's okay to act in that way to get what I want.
And it's what they see in communities as well. So especially when it comes to serious youth violence, you know, that's a real risk for our young people. They're seeing people getting hurt, they're seeing people being killed. So they might think, you know, well, I need to fight to make sure that doesn't happen to me. I'm not being seen as a victim.
From a fear factor of if I don't then attack first, and get that sense of strength and show that sense of strength, whether male or female, actually then I'm going to become a victim. And probably witness lots of friends or family being victim to.
Like I've had young people when I go into primary school, so year 5 and 6. So year 5, are they like 9 to 10-year-olds? And every primary school I've been in, at least one young person in year 5 has seen someone in the community be killed. Now, that was before year 5. These are babies in primary school, and they're seeing that trauma. And again, sometimes it just desensitizes what is going on.
A lot of things are made to be normal, or you get used to it. Like when you mentioned people going to prison, and you got to consider that factor if you're with someone. But now you see on socials that people are saying this trend of prison bay. I don't know whether to just laugh it off because it's so silly, or that it's actually people are becoming open to the idea.
But again, like when that's put out, that's made to seem like it's really fun. So especially like when some of the boys as well, like they're like, oh, I'm not bothered if I go to prison because I'll know this person and that. So again, it's glamorized.
No, I mean, I understand, but I've seen, for example, females making videos saying, like, talking about their experience of prison bay, and it's almost like glamorizing it, almost saying that, oh, you know what, it's nice having prison bay, knowing that he won't cheat on you.
But is he talking to another 4 or 5 females while he's inside?
Yeah, but they just make it into a sketch where they're like, you know what, I could finally go to sleep in peace knowing that there's no person with him, that kind of thing. Or like red flags, there's no more red flags because he's not in society. I don't know, it's just it's just,
no, I get what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Because they're after safety, but then the crazy thing is then it often gives them instability and lack of safety. Which is, by having someone like that, they think they can be protected or looked after, or they're part of a group.
Okay, that makes it.
There's a lot of deep emotional stuff that's going on underneath the behaviour that we're seeing.
Because it's like the healthy relationship stuff that we do a lot in our work. So young people know what is right and wrong in relationships, or what's healthy and what's not.
Okay, so these are some of the motivators you're saying?
No, more of like red flags to look for.
So what would be some of the key motivators for females to get involved in serious youth violence? I think apart from guys.
One thing you were saying earlier about being unseen. And it's about how do you so if I'm not being noticed, so that's by my family, by my friends, how do I get seen? What behaviour do I need to
low self-esteem is a big one. So your low self-esteem when someone feels really bad about themselves, and they're seeing stuff on social media, they're seeing, oh, this person's with this, they're doing fancy things, and wants a bit of that.
I agree, because I think if you live in a low socioeconomic background, and first of all, it could, if you add on to that single parent household, or maybe even if you don't live in a single parent household but you live in a household that you don't get much affection, someone's going to show you that outside potentially, and it might be the wrong person. So I think these are kind of factors to consider.
Because it's even bullying as well. So if someone's being bullied at school, and every day they're going in and it's really bad, and they're fighting to try and not be a victim, and get kicked out of school, there might be someone that just gives them a compliment and instantly they're hooked. Because it's boosting their self-esteem, it's making themselves seen.
And we all want to be recognised and acknowledged and have status.
And love and affection and someone to care for us.
So, and then you've got a media sort of narrative that actually rewards bad behaviour. So lots of celebrities, that actually make their livelihood off acting bad and acting out. And so you've got this idea that if you're with someone that's involved in this, stuff that's happening on the streets, that gives you, you'll get rewarded for it.
TV does play a big part in terms of shaping your reality, or how you perceive things.
And social media as well, and some songs. Now, I know with songs it can be like a big debate, but some people will sing or make music about real life experiences that they've been through. But when you look at some of the lyrics more on a deeper level, some of the things that are said about females are so damaging to what a healthy relationship is. You should treat a girl in a certain way because a girl's nothing, you can just get someone else.
I don't think that would sell. that's they're thinking from a perspective of gaining popularity and trend. So if a guy's got an image to maintain, he's gonna be as vulgar as possible. And for some reason, some females sing along to the lyrics, which makes you even
like
more
I
confused.
used to sing along, and now when I moved here, I was like, oh no, I can't say that. No.
and not even understanding what the lyrics are or what they're even saying. Yeah, it's just deep.
Yeah, or even if you was to move to a different genre of music, your friends were like, oh, why do you listen to that music? You're weird. Or start laughing at you if you was put on Michael Jackson. Or they're like, that's so old. Or not even old, they would just be like, you know what, that's like not the way. That's not the way.
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? But yeah, I think it's a lot of fitting in. You don't want to stand out. So it's just that whole life is just strange of how many different things you got to consider. It's not just a one-way system.
Sometimes just like fitting in with your peers, just going along with you know what your mates are doing, and not realising the risks or not realising what can happen. So sometimes it sadly does happen.
I think.
I was thinking you also get some families that have always been involved in criminality or use of violence as a way of getting their place in society. And then so if you're brought up in that, then it's almost then you've got a reputation of like, this is my family history, this is who I am, this is how I have to be in my area to be fulfilled.
So some people can't leave the area they were raised in, and sometimes the trouble does follow you around.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing to consider. You got to consider the consequences, the long term, the short term. They all play a big role.
But one thing, like I know we always do in our work when we're working with young people and families, is we don't judge, because people do things for their own reasons, and you know what's normal to me mightn't be normal to you. So we can't always say, well, no, you can't do that because that's not normal. Because to some people, things are normal that aren't to other people, and
so true.
Everyone has their own opinions, and we're there to empower people, not to knock them down if they've got a certain view, but it's more about making them understand the risks or look at things from different perspectives.
And so actually there's an argument that women are often more cunning than men when it comes to criminality, because they can almost get away with it in a different way because they're not focused on, or it's not expected. So actually then you have women that are running trap houses or county lines and are actually heavily involved, but it's almost there no one would expect that. And so there's almost the subtlety, actually there's women are very gifted communicators, networkers, that there's a lot actually
keep
around.
the compliments about women coming.
No,
seeing as I'm outnumbered. When you said cunning, I was thinking, oh, hang on, Simon.
For nice.
Positively.
No, I think obviously there's women have a lot of skills that are just amazing, and some things they can do better than guys.
Absolutely.
Even though some guys don't want to admit it, it's true. And that's why I want to ask, what are the different spectrums of females involved in criminal activity?
It's really vast. So as we said, we've got women that are running county lines, they're running gangs, they're running everything underneath them. Then some of the other ones are the more sort of vulnerable on the scale. So they're the ones that might be getting exploited, might be getting asked to go county lines. So I had a young person that got asked to go county lines during COVID. So she went and she was travelling down on a train, and as she was getting closer, she went, no, I come back. It was too bait. Like, no one was around. So I was potentially going to be getting stopped. So there is like some women and females are used as like trophies in gangs. So are given as like rewards when someone does something like on an order. Sometimes they're used as like initiations. So we'll be forced to perform lineups. And then obviously we get into like honey trap and set up chicks as well.
I never knew about the trophy element to it. It's like
you don't hear about it that much. Like you've got to go digging in some cases sometimes.
So is it like once you reach a certain milestone, this is what you get?
Like women, I think it used to be called battery chicks. I don't know if young people still use that term now, but it's where like a girl will just be given round to all different gang members.
Okay, right. And this happens with, is it like, is a female happy with that, or is it because she... Because that's the thing. So it's either she's consenting to it, because sometimes you might think, oh, she would never consent to something like that, but you can never say never. Sometimes you might get someone who might want to do that.
Yeah, but I'll throw a question out, like, could someone consent to sexual activity if they were really scared about the consequences of not saying yes?
Yeah, but you previously said, you know, some people have their own rights and wrongs of what they would define as right and wrong. So this person might think in their head, oh, this is what I'm into.
Yeah, like some people, like, that's what I say to the girls I'm working with. It doesn't matter to me if you've slept with one person or you slept with 20. Like, I'm not you, but just make sure you're safe when you're doing things. And again, when you said before, Zino, about sometimes it's the lifestyle. So if they're like being bought things or being given drugs or alcohol or just that love and affection, they don't always will realise the unhealthiness of that and the dangers. That makes sense, because all these things can manipulate your train of thought. You know, like, for example, if you're very certain that you don't want to do something, one sip or one toke of something can make you think, oh, maybe I'll consider it. I'm not sure. I'm much more, they call it, I'm not being judgmental. But if you're sober, that's you just being your normal self. You're using your common sense. But once you're a little bit out of it, it like
you
lowers
can get
your
swayed.
inhibitions.
You're much more
and
easier
stuff.
to convince someone to do something, and their guard is down, and you know that guilt or shame within you is no longer there. So you're like, all right, go on, might as well.
Because you would have obvious sort of power where someone pulls out a knife, and you know that. But actually, a lot of coercion is really hard to spot, and you know anyone is vulnerable to being pulled into.
The use of language as well is very strong. You know, when people say, you know, come, for example, let's chill. That just means come, let's get high, sort of thing. But they don't say, oh, they won't tell you, oh, let's open up the risk for you to get this or whatever, or to harm yourself. They say, oh, let's just relax. So whatever you speak, you should be very careful of how the words that come out. And it's just so different. You could basically sugarcoat what you're saying.
And it's different interpretations. So chill to me would just be hanging out with my friends.
Or Netflix and chill. You know, it's just like, it's, if they were to tell you, if they were to tell you the actual thing they want to do, you would say, no, I won't do that. But because they dress up the wordings in such a way, you'd be like, it sounds normal. But even though inside you know what's going to happen, you'll be like, all right. So I think the use of wordplay is very strong, and it's very influential. I seem to think, especially if you add on different things to it, like you said, a knife would spike up a certain mood, you know, alcohol, drugs would also change things around. So I think all these things should be, you know, looked at from a different angle.
And language is very interesting with young women and young men, about how women are often demonized if they act out in a certain way. So you mentioned honey trapping, and actually, you know, honey trapping is the use of a romantic relationship to pull someone into a bad situation. It could be male or female, but it's often seen in that they would say use a young woman to then lure in a young man, and then that young man could then get attacked or robbed. But actually, the word luring is quite emotive, because then it suggests that there's a sense that, you know, she's unlike any other woman, and she's deliberately manipulated, you know, and actually if she's coerced or told if she doesn't do that, then actually there's going to be consequences. Actually, she isn't in a position of choice or, you know, decision making. And actually men have been using honey traps legitimately in war situations and in politics for years, and that's seen as okay and normal.
I think it doesn't help that some men can be weak towards their desires anyway. So once they talk to someone they find attractive, everything changes. You know, their heartbeat changes, their thought process changes, and they'll be, you know, just more open or more thinking, you know what, I like this person, and they'll start thinking differently. So I think a male to female, or male to male, or female to female, if there's a romantic relationship there, the minute romance is involved,
it's human nature.
Your common sense almost. You know, you always get this conversation saying, do you think of your heart or of your brain? And it's different. It's really different, because your brain tells you, okay, this doesn't make sense, but your heart tells you, all right, let's give it another chance, or let's try to be less lenient or more lenient. You know, So that's one thing of honey trapping, I think.
Because if you think of like teenagers as well, they have all them extra hormones and they're trying to figure out who they are, and
exactly,
you know, people want to be popular, they want to be liked by people. So it's like, if you've got someone saying, "Oh, let's meet up," you're gonna have that like flutter and think, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna."
It's like, oh yeah, this is
the feeling of being wanted, right?
Yeah. Attention and
Especially if you're someone who's not used to the romantic feelings of, or maybe because you've been so busy or so involved in a certain lifestyle, the minute you experience such thing, you just get lost into it.
Definitely.
And I think that's a bit dangerous. But we know honey trapping, there's another term for it people use, is set up chick.
Yeah.
So that's also another word. I'm not sure what other words there are, but what is a formal term for it? Like if you was to
we probably use. I mean, the honey trapping isn't something that happens on a regular
of course
basis. And I think it's more often now used in social media as well. So people will set up avatars or as a way of, but it's a way of using, you know, sex or romance to position someone or get what they want. There's been, I think 2006, there was a big case in Croydon which hit the national press, and then suddenly it became like, oh, you know, we hadn't heard of honey trapping before, and as a result, it suddenly hit the media.
To hear people saying they haven't heard of honey trapping, but it's been used in wars in previous centuries, let's just say. So I don't know, maybe the term they haven't heard about, but maybe that's...
But it's used in things like Top Boy, it's used in like adulthood, brotherhood, and kidulthood and stuff. It's used in all
so it's
the things
surprising.
that young people watch
exactly.
as well, or have watched.
Yeah, so I'm just surprised as people still, some may say, I haven't heard about this.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, like, how comes? But yeah, it's just maybe awareness ain't really put out
and
there.
I think it's like the words we use. So for example, when I've been into colleges and said, anybody know what county lines is? Everyone's just been looking blank at me, and I'm like, you know what it is, and they're like, no, and like OT Cunch, and they're like, oh, and most people put hands up. So when I said about honey traps, when I was delivering like group work this week, they were like, honey traps, and when I explained it, they were like, oh no, that's set up chicks, and I was like, okay. So terms change constantly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what the next term would be.
The minute adults or mainstream understand the term, it then changes. And that's how slang works. So because you know,
well, we'll keep an eye out just in case. We've got to keep updated with what the newest term is. But how would you avoid falling into a honey trap? So how would you advise someone, or just pointers?
I think
especially because now everything is almost done online, like Instagram, dating platforms. You've got catfish, you've got people that just want to rob you, you know, people that just want have something against you, like a grudge. So whilst you're there trying to actually pursue something, how would you, let's say you're someone who's not paranoid, but you've got to be realistic as well. So how would you just be...
I think a lot of it is awareness, and having these conversations about, you know, because there's a lot of social media where you think you're invincible and no one's going to, you're anonymous, no one knows who you are. And actually, we're realizing now, and young people are probably ahead of adults, that actually what I do now on social media has a long-term effect on my you know, who I'm going to be in the future. So awareness of like actual dangers and the reality of situations.
That's what I'd say. And just, you know, it's okay to be your own person. You don't always have to follow what your friends are doing. And just, if you are, like I was saying to most young people that I've come into contact with, if for example you are going to meet anyone, whether it's someone you met on social media, whether it's someone you know, make sure someone knows where you're going and who you're going with.
You know what it is?
Whether it's not it doesn't always have to be like a parent or carer. It can be like your best friend.
Yeah. I think the first thing with guys, some guys, when they find out there's something between a potential partner and they go to agree a location, obviously the sensible thing is to let someone know just in case something happens. But the minute you tell your mate,
the first thing they say, their nose and
the first thing they say, what they look like, what is it they, you know, like let's see their picture, and then you're just thinking, oh, they're gonna laugh or they're gonna have a different taste, because you know they say that the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So whatever you might find attractive, they might not. So especially if you think that your mate is like like is a type that just likes to cuss everyone, you're going to be more just like, oh, no, I'd rather not tell you.
Yeah.
So I think these things do come into play. I think maybe females are different. Females don't really care about what, when they show friends, their female peers, what a person looks like. Maybe they'll say, can he facilitate a lifestyle? Maybe. Or can he, what does he do for work?
Yeah.
You know, is that true?
One thing, they say like, oh, what does he do? And I think the older you get, the more it's like, oh, what does he do for work? Or
guys
like,
care about
has
looks.
he got kids? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And when it's...
What do you think?
I
Do you think there's a difference there? Because guys are just more based off, like they say, some guys are visual creatures, like they are attracted to what they see. But I think maybe with females, they think about long term. What can this guy do for me in terms of like...
Or like, is he funny?
Is he funny?
Yeah,
like,
these characteristics.
Like,
yeah.
I think there's a lot of pressure to look at looks and status and initially, but actually as you get older people, even young people are deep, and they're actually like, well, what am I going to get from this relationship? You know, is it
stable? Like, especially for young people who've never had like a stable family life, it's like, can they give me that stability? Can they give me that love and that affection and that all my needs?
Do they want to, you know, be my soulmate? Is there more to it? Are they going to encourage me to be the best person I am, opposed to what am I going to get from that relationship? Or you know,
sometimes girls are like, what star sign is he?
Yeah.
And then they do that.
Are you
I
into
don't
that?
know. Some of my young people are like, what star sign are you? What star sign's your partner? And they'll be like, yeah, yous are compatible and this and that. And I'm like, okay.
Some
read me palms.
No, some actually would actually decline you if they say you're a different star sign. Like, really? Like, it's not that deep.
Like, when do you want me birthday to be?
The world is crumbling before their eyes. Like, oh, I really liked you, but you know what? This is a deal breaker for me.
No. Tick.
Yeah. I think that should be a red flag for you. Like, you know what? It's great that you didn't follow through, because the next minute someone would slide into the DM like, it's a sign.
Yeah.
And then the cheating starts, or maybe or something. It's just like, But some people do take that stuff serious. You know, that's you. That's fine. But yeah, in terms of not falling into a honey trap and being sensible, I would say obviously you'd have to tell someone where you're going. Preferably the person as well, what they look like, if something was to happen, what you're wearing, maybe, just in case if you do go, I don't know, missing. Is that a likely situation to happen in a honey trap? You'd go missing or kidnapped.
There are cases of kidnapping. Again, it's not common, and I would say with most of this, it's a very small percentage of young people that experience it. But the consequences are really high.
And
that's the concern.
Sometimes it can be someone that they know and have known for a while. And it's just
like in Catfish, in the series, you know, the US-based MTV show.
Yeah, but like someone who might be getting catfished, you know, not catfish, sorry, honey trap, they could have known that girl who's setting them up. They could have been to school with her. They could have known her for years, but who's she hanging around with? So like I was saying to some of the girls I was talking to yesterday, like I was like, are you from north, south, east, west? And I was like, would you date someone from another area? And some were like, no. And some were like, yeah. And I was like, why? For the ones that said no, why not? And they were like, oh, because it could cause trouble. So we've had girls that I've been working with that have had phone calls off people in the area they live and was like, we know you're dating someone from another area. Don't come back and don't bring them. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt. And that is their reality,
Absolutely.
It gets a bit technical once you start to,
and so for a young
it's a bit
person,
sad though.
You're having to navigate,
you have to put boundaries around to how you live your life when you're not even involved in the first place. Or maybe if you are involved, then it makes sense why you're getting that phone call, because you are involved.
And it's like you said earlier, you know, young people often don't see a border of where they live.
They don't know.
Some do, some don't. So it
depends, isn't it? Like if you're a person that has a business structure, let's just say, on the street, then you're going to know the borders and who controls what. But if you're not really into that kind of lifestyle, but you're surrounded by that lifestyle, then you might fall into that situation where borders, you might not see past them.
And you know, some young people from other areas might come into, say, Kensington and Chelsea, and they might be stopped by people who are involved in gangs and said, where are you from? They say where they're from, not realising, and it's like, you can't be here, or there might be a fight, or where are you from?
And it's so important for young people to have people they can trust and will speak into their life. And so what's really difficult is if you become isolated because there's like bullying going on or issues at home, actually you're more likely to get pulled into something that's of risk because you haven't got, you know, so for me, I need people around me to say, Simon, what are you thinking? Like, serious? Like, step back. This isn't real.
Like a wake-up call.
Yeah, just think about this, you know, what's really going on here. And so for young people, they need like strong people around them that will say, hang on a minute, what's really going, why is this guy or girl suddenly interested in you? What's that about?
Yeah, that could happen.
You know,
but then your defensive mode kicks in. Like with anything, if you tell someone don't do this, the first instinct is why. Yeah. What? Don't tell them what to do, or the classical line, "You're not my dad. You're not my mum." Yeah. So you know what I mean. Yeah. So even though you're coming from a good place, whether you tell someone who you're in a relationship or a friend or whatever the connection may be, they're going to be defensive. That's just the psychological side of things. And it's sad we don't see there's an interest. But also that should let us know that we should come with care with approaching someone that you might think they're going through something bad, right? You should tell them, maybe if you had no filter, you say don't do that or stop doing it. But you should think about how they would receive it. You know what I mean? So maybe tell them in a way that would be not judgmental, but maybe just in a chilled way that wouldn't put their guard up instantly.
You've got to have that genuine love and compassion for that person and relationship.
Of course,
so if I know someone genuinely cares about me, I'm going to listen to them if they speak into my life and say, hang on a minute, what's going on?
Yeah.
But there's also how you do it, so you don't have to say, you're mad. Why are you
I agree.
That young man or that young... Do you know what I mean?
Why
you go out...
Yeah, don't just be like, you're a hater. You're a hater. Because you don't have it. Because you don't have it. You're trying to tell me not to have it. That's what they'll say initially.
You could say, like, you know, so I use a lot of, well, actually, have you thought about what would happen in this situation? Or I've come across this experience where this has happened to a young person. Like, could that happen to you? Yeah. And it's less I'm saying you're wrong and I'm pointing the finger at you. It's about saying, like, what would happen if, you know...
Like giving them the power to make their own choices,
Absolutely.
but by guiding them. And I think sometimes, I'm not giving all our secrets away, sometimes we've got to be a little bit sneaky in it.
Yeah. And some people say...
Did you say that?
Yeah, I think...
Or clever, not sneaky, clever and creative. That's a better word.
Creative.
Yeah.
And some people say, you know what, let them live life to learn for themselves. I kind of agree and disagree with that statement, because you can't really tell someone, oh, learn from your mistakes, because that mistake could cost you your life, right? Yeah. That mistake could be too much of a consequence to take. But then some people say, live your life. Yeah. I think if you try to safeguard yourself as much as possible, it's better than for you to learn through your mistakes. You can learn through other people's mistakes, through watching them, but don't think the only way for you to learn is to go through the mistakes, which I think is often kind of pushed out into the society. It
depends sometimes on character, personality. Some people will hear about an experience or and watch Top Boy and think, right, okay, I can see that happening to me. Therefore, I'm going to not do it. Other people, they're like, they have to go through the experience. But it's about how do you make sure that it's not then life-threatening or like consequential. And
you never know.
It's really hard. And sometimes... You know, we have to go through difficult experiences to actually
and I think
understand.
I know in I think it was September when the young girl and the female were shot dead in Liverpool. And this is something I've been talking especially to the girls in group work about, is that, you know, you could be in a relationship with someone who might be involved in stuff. You could be in a relationship and someone has mistaken identity. You know, we've had females as well that have been in relationships with gang members. A rival gang has come when the male is going home. The male's run in, shut the door because human nature's just taken over, and his girlfriend's on the other side of the door with rival gang members getting battered. It's like, we were saying this to the girls, it was like, you know, someone can love you, but then when you're in a dangerous situation, people don't think...
But also I think people have a different definition of what love is. Some people say, you know, love is, for them, is they'll die for you. Or some people say, the minute something gets a bit risky, love's out the window. So I think everyone has their own definition of what they think that is. So it's a bit tricky.
And in difficult situations like that, we often don't know how we're going to act. So even if my intention is I love that person, I'll do anything, when it comes down to it, you either you fight or flight. I don't know if you've heard that before. You know, it's, you know, really, those pressure situations are really hard. So
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think. What do you think makes a woman want to be involved in honey trapping? Is it something that she always wants to do, or is it something that she gets forced to do? Is it something that just happens because of the life she's in?
Yeah, again, it's all different. It can be all three of them things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
a mixture of.
And sometimes they can be just tricked into doing it.
Yeah.
Without them knowing.
Yeah.
How could you be tricked into something like that?
Because they might be told, like, they might, the gang or whoever's trying to set this person up, you know, might know that the girl is talking to someone or friends with someone, and then they could just say, "Oh, where are you?" And they might be like, "Oh, I'm here," and just innocently not realising.
So it's not like she's gone out dressed up to like lure him in.
Yeah.
It's literally they know that she's out with that young person.
Yeah.
You know, like, do you know what I mean? Getting Nando's or in a
cheeky Nando's,
just on a bus somewhere. Often, you know, and then it's like, you know, they know that they're on the bus with this person. Wait at the bus stop. Yeah.
Or like it's posted on social media, so it's posted.
Yeah,
on
I think that's one thing is
Snap
never post your location, live location.
Yeah.
That's just because I think we're so used to doing everything and posting it.
Yeah.
The minute we get our food, before we even eat, we just have to take a little snap.
Yeah.
And then it's not. I don't know. Just
there is some like times when it's real manipulation. So they will get a Snapchat photo of them in a vulnerable, you know, position or, you know, semi-naked, and then we'll use that as collateral to say, if you don't set this person up or you don't act in a certain way, I'm going to release that photo. And then you're sort of, you know, it's such a difficult place to be in, because you're like, how do I protect myself? Because I've made a risk with someone. I've shared something that and then, so, you know, but then actually if I carry this out, then.
But that's not always. They could always continue to put out the content
and
anyways.
Keep doing it or ask for more content or you know, and so it's a never-ending cycle of
that's messed up.
Yeah.
But the courts are coming down harder and have been for quite a while when it comes to honey trapping.
What is the prosecution if found guilty?
It depends on what
severity.
The outcome was. But I know, especially with a lot of young females that are involved in like serious youth violence, for example, they're not treated the same way as maybe a male would be when it comes to like arrests and prosecution and like
there's more sympathy
and stuff. I think girls like and females aren't given severe sentences like some of the males, depending on what it is.
It can be flipped, so it can be more sympathy, but then also at the other end it can be, well, actually young women shouldn't be behaving like this, so we're going to come down really, really harsh. So the 2006 honey trap case where the young men involved were arrested for murder, and she was also arrested. They're only just talking about whether they're going to be released from custody now. So that was back in 2006. So that's a long-term stretch.
Wow, that's
so,
a lot.
But obviously that was a murder, wasn't it?
And
when we think of but when we think of some of the other violent incidents that females can be included in communities when it comes to serious youth violence, it varies, doesn't it?
So I'm just trying to think, what have been some of the successes that you've come across whilst working with young females?
So I started this role in February 2020, so it was literally 2 weeks before lockdown. I moved from Liverpool to London and started a new job. So it was really strange for me because a lot of my first engagement with young people was over the phone. I don't like being on the phone, some young people don't, but I managed to engage some, which that was a success for me. Like if I can sit down and have a conversation with a young person, that's a success because they're giving their time to me to try and help themselves. Because there's some young people, you know, who'd been referred to our service many times over many years and didn't engage with other workers. And that can be because of different points in their life or because they relate more to one worker. So that's a success for me.
What about yourself, Simon?
Yes, I think I had young women that have found out who they want to be. You know, so then they worked out what they want to do in their life and their career. They've stopped getting involved in situations that are risky through experience. So they've learned from when things have gone wrong. And that's one of the most important things for any young person. Like, actually, we are going to make mistakes. It's going to go wrong. And it's about saying, you know, so I think, and also,
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really good.
And when they can reflect back as well of, you know, where they were at the start of their journey compared to where they are now. They're like, yeah, I've come so far. And sometimes it's just that little understanding, and tiny little steps are brilliant.
On that, I don't know how true this is, but there's an idea that young women reflect much earlier on. So whereas young men, it will take them to about 21, 22 before they start thinking, hang on a minute, maybe how I'm acting and what I'm involved in isn't helping my life. Whereas young women, and we were talking about the power of women earlier, and the good attributes actually are more able to sit down and have conversations and reflect and see what the consequences and shift up. And that's credit to young women, I think.
Of course,
they're more able to be vulnerable about their feelings, what's going on, and because of that, they can then get support from people. And I think for a lot of young men, it's really hard to say, I need help or support.
There's that stigma around asking.
I'm weak. And whereas young women actually incredibly will say, actually, no, I need good people around me, and will be more likely to seek better friendship groups. So when we're doing work around health relationships, they're more likely to take that on board and understand that. And actually young men can learn from women in that way.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really, you know what, I think this whole conversation has been insightful and just an eye-opener. Hopefully people watching or tuning in can actually take a few things from this and just implement it, or just actually have something to think about and advise others. Look for signs, like when we deliver training or group work, people will be like, oh, I've seen it there in my friend, oh, do you think like my friend needs support? And we'll signpost to other services if it doesn't meet the criteria for ours. But that's, I think, a positive thing if people are listening and they think, oh, you know, my friend's going through a similar situation, whether the friend's male or female. Yeah, that's the point. Hopefully we're just trying to raise some awareness and just make it an impactful podcast where people can actually make use of it. You know? Yeah.
And the majority of young people aren't involved in this level of stuff. It's a very small percentage. But I think because we naturally hear the negatives, and media is very negative based. Yeah. So these stories, when they come out, it's like, whoa, like every young person's at risk, and they are, but actually most young people have great intentions. Yeah. And even these young people that have got involved in stuff that's negative, actually they're amazing young people.
Yeah, so not everyone's bad. Like
they're like, how do you work with them? And you're like, they're the most amazing. They're super gifted, intelligent. They've got so much to offer, and it's actually like I really enjoy working rather than it's like, they're going to be like.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, because people don't see that side of things, and just straight away to just judge and just paint you a paintbrush, you know. Yeah.
The business entrepreneurs, innovative, and actually if they put that into setting up a business,
transferable skills,
entrepreneurial skill.
I had to write a CV once for a young person that had no qualifications, had been kicked out of school at 13, had learning needs, but would go county lines, would go crunch all the time. So when we were trying to do a CV, I was like, okay, let's pick out what you can do. You're good at time keeping, you're good at communication, and we got all the transferable skills of drug dealing into something positive, and he got a really good job in the end.
So they can read people, they can network, they can, which are all the skills you need to do you know what I mean, set up multi-million-dollar business. It's almost saying, how do we as society recognise that potential and invest in it, rather than just judging for the you know, oh, you're a honey trapper or you're a
wow. Well, guys, been lovely having you here. Any
Pleasure.
Closing statements you want to do before we wrap up?
No, just as Simon said, not every young person's bad, and people do deserve chances, even if people have made mistakes, and there is support for people as well. I know it can sometimes be difficult coming forward, because young people think, oh, if I pass this information on, then it's going to sort of snowball and everyone's going to find out, but there is support if people do need it.
Powerful. That was really good.
And I really appreciate you having these conversations, because it's really helpful, you know, and we need to be doing this more in schools and with young people, and I would encourage parents as well to have these conversations with their young people, and almost to invest and say, like, how do we, you know, rather than just ignore it and say, let's really dig in.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, hopefully we'll get into other subjects as we go further down the line. And well, thank you both for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Blessings.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, you're saying?
No, blessings is.
Oh, right, yeah, of
good
course,
stuff.
all the time. And that is it for another episode of Powered by You. Thank you for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. You can also listen to the audio version on morleyradio.co.uk.